Hi, how you doing? This is the Gamertron and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. So recently, Warhammer 40k Dawn of Warfree had an update that included the classic Annihilation mode, where in order to win, players must destroy every single building that your enemy or enemies have. And it is through the return of this classic game mode that Dawn of Warfree has really shown off, from my perspective, the intricacies of video game design. You see, Dawn of Warfree as a real-time strategy game already has quite a few mechanics in place, with the different buildings and units, and methods and strategies of play. It is a real-time strategy game after all, so strategy is a huge part of the game. It includes such elements as army unit composition, resource management, timing, good judgment on when and if to retreat, and finding time and selecting the right units to secure and destroy objectives. Now, before the recent update and inclusion of Annihilation mode in Dawn of Warfree, you had only the single-player campaign and the Power Core mode in multiplayer. Now, in the single-player campaign, outside of one mission for a brief few seconds, there are no turrets in the game. You and your enemies cannot build turrets. You can build buildings, you can build bases, you can have units defending those buildings and bases, and taking certain pre-placed points of hard cover around the map. But there are technically, in a sense, no traditional real-time strategy style turrets to build or are pre-built to defend your buildings and bases. The very, very few exceptions being the Wa towers in the Orc faction and listening posts you can place on resource points for all factions. And so in the single-player campaign, you have to base your strategies and your gameplay style, how you lead your factions, based on this lack of base defenses for both you and your enemies. The only way you could protect your bases is if you leave units behind to guard your buildings. And the enemies that you go up against in the single-player campaign, outside of some special missions, where there is no base building involved, just squad management and surviving hordes of enemies, you're going to have to come to the decision, do you want to send the full force of your army to attack the enemy's base and wipe out their units and buildings, or do you want to leave some units behind to protect your buildings and bases, full well knowing that you are not sending the maximum firepower, the maximum force, the maximum DPS potential by sending only some units to attack? Will you use guerrilla tactics, hit and run, turtle up and defend your base for a while you slowly gather resources and build your heaviest hitting units to send to attack? There are many possibilities, and you have to create your own strategies and gameplay style and possibilities based on what you have available, and turrets are not available. But that's just in the single-player campaign. In the multiplayer, pre-recent update multiplayer, pre-Annihilation multiplayer, there was only the game mode Power Core, where you start the game with pre-built, pre-placed turrets that are defending your Power Core, your main objective. If the enemy destroys your Power Core, you lose. You destroy the enemy Power Core, you win. But first you gotta get past their turrets. But to get to the turrets, you have to destroy the generators, protecting the turrets. So in the Power Core game mode, which was the only game mode available in multiplayer up until the recent update, your strategies, your tactics, your gameplay styles, how you played the game, period, had to completely shift and change from that of the single-player campaign. Because unlike the single-player campaign, in multiplayer, in the Power Core game mode, you now have to defend generators, turrets, and your Power Core while destroying your enemies' generators, turrets, and Power Core. And like that, with the addition and subtraction of these few items and objectives in the game world, within the gameplay mechanics, how you view the game, how you play the game, how you think about the game changes drastically. It really did kind of come as a shock to me when I played Dawn of Warfree for the first time. I beat the campaign, moved on to multiplayer, expecting to have a multitude of game modes, but instead there was only one. Okay, I'm assuming that one game mode was similar in a way to the campaign that I just played. Nope, it's almost an entirely different experience. The rules have changed. In a lot of other video games that have a multiplayer and single-player component, at times the single-player campaign is an extended tutorial. One might say, preparing you for multiplayer. That is not the case in Dawn of Warfree. Dawn of Warfree's campaign is its own separate beast, Whereas with the previous Dawn of War games, it's fair to say that the campaigns do indeed in many ways prepare you for multiplayer. At the time, the campaign did not prepare you in any way, shape, or form for the multiplayer and the style of gameplay and strategies you would have to implement. The inclusion of the generators, turrets, and power core in the power core game mode in multiplayer really did throw me off guard, and it took me hours to get used to this. All the strategies and gameplay styles and tactics that I had performed in the campaign that I had gotten used to with each of the different factions and their units, I had to look at everything differently. And while it was an odd experience, I wouldn't call it a bad experience. It was certainly a learning experience, and it somewhat made me appreciate Dawn of War 3 and show off just how special and diverse video games can be, where its single-player campaign and its multiplayer are just such different beasts, and how gameplay styles and strategies can vary drastically by the addition and subtraction of mere turrets. And now finally, with the recent update and the return of Annihilation mode, it's a whole new learning experience all over again. Because now, buildable turrets are back in Annihilation mode. They don't appear to have been added in the single-player campaign though. They seem to be exclusive to multiplayer and the specific Annihilation game mode. And with the addition of buildable turrets, once again, all of my strategies and gameplay styles, and just how I look at and think about the game, how I interact with the game has completely changed. I now have to take into account building turrets to defend my base, and building specific units and creating an army composition of units that can tank the damage from the enemy turrets, while having units that deal significant damage to buildings, including said turrets. I also now have to worry about the resource management and placement of these turrets, but so will my enemy. And just like that, we have the single-player campaign with no turrets, we have the Power Core game mode in multiplayer with pre-built turrets, and now we have Annihilation mode with buildable turrets. In this one video game, we have 3 different game modes: the Campaign, Power Core, and Annihilation, all of which, in many ways, play and force you to play completely differently. And I think through this, Dawn of War 3 is an excellent example and study of the intricacies, details, and importance of game design. I mean, for goodness sakes, with Dawn of War 3, it shows us how the mere addition and subtraction of turrets, of base defenses, completely changes how you play the game. Playing Dawn of War 3 now, it almost feels like I'm playing 3 different RTS games in one. Something as simple as turrets, something as basic in real-time strategy games as turrets, has you look at buildings, units, in completely different ways. How you maneuver around the map, how you manage resources. All of it changed because of turrets. Think about other video games you play, think about other real-time strategy games or first-person shooters. Think about a gameplay mechanic or an item that we usually take for granted in our video games. Say for instance, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. Say for example, Dark Souls removed bonfires. You no longer have bonfires, you now have autosaves, traditional checkpoints, and the ability to save and load your game at any time. And like that, with the removal of bonfires and the addition of your typical save game feature, how you play Dark Souls, how you form strategies, how you think about every aspect of the game is now changed on so many different levels. Now take a game, for example, like Mass Effect and remove the dialogue options. You no longer have control of choices and the development of your personal Shepard. It's now all scripted, linear cutscenes. And here's the funny thing about that example. Mass Effect 3 actually has that option where dialogue choices are removed and you can just play the game like a more linear scripted action experience. And how you look at and play and think about Mass Effect is almost completely turned on its head. Just as you can't imagine Dark Souls without bonfires and you can't imagine Mass Effect without dialogue choices, I couldn't see Dawn of War without turrets. And its removal and inclusion of different variations of turrets, the pre-built and the buildables, the addition and subtraction of a power core and objectives, or not having any of that at all. It's amazing all the different dynamics and possibilities in game design with the addition and subtraction of mechanics and features. It shows you the options, the variables, and just how easily a video game can become a whole separate beast or fall apart. Or, for example, how many different gameplay experiences you can give to your players with separate game modes that play around with these different mechanics and features, because right now, with the free different game modes in Dawn of War free, there is now a lot of variety. You play the single-player campaign, then you play the Power Core game mode in multiplayer, then you play the Annihilation mode in multiplayer, and you're going to have a lot of varied experiences on your hands, a lot of varied strategies, and a lot of varied ways at how you approach and look at the game. It's had me thinking and looking at different real-time strategy games and what they would be like with the addition and subtraction of just turrets. Because something as simple that we take for granted in so many other video games and real-time strategy games such as base defenses, it's really gotten me thinking as to just how much the simplest details, the simplest mechanics and features, and how they alter our perception and our experience of the video games we play. So please, let me know in the comment section down below, have you played Dawn of War free? Have you played the new Annihilation mode? What do you think of my thoughts, feelings, and opinions in this video? I'd love to read your comments and your thoughts, feelings, and opinions in the comment section down below. I love reading comments. If you like this video in any way, shape, or form, please be sure to hit the like button. Hitting the like button helps you, helps me, helps everybody involved in the video if you hit the like button. If you want to help out and support this video, then please share it on social media, Twitter and Facebook. And if you want to help out and support me directly, well, there's always Patreon. Anyways, guys, that's been a video, and I'll see you all later.